All right, so the Rockets have the third pick. It seemingly is a three-player draft. So at number 3, you could get one of those said players. Rafael Stone, the Rockets general manager, held a press conference over Zoom last night, and he was asked about the possibility of potentially moving out of the number 3 spot. This was the Rockets GM yesterday.
I'm definitely not going to block them out. If they want to talk, I'm always available to talk. So, yeah. No, I mean, I don't listen to other people. I don't listen to other general. They don't tell me who to pick. So I've not had another general manager call me and tell me who to pick. But if it's the case that they are interested in doing something, we're always available to listen. And if there's something that makes sense for both teams, something will get done.
I can't see them trading out of 3.
I can't either.
Because it seems like it's only a 3-player draft.
I hear a lot of Nick Caserio and Rafael Stone. Not in terms of they sound the same, but in terms of their answers were the same.
Does Stone wear vests?
I don't think so.
Does Stone like barbecue?
I hope so.
Well, Nick doesn't, but Nick does wear a vest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, look, Nick Caserio said something relatively similar leading up to the NFL draft, right? He left the door open. He sent the message to other teams and said, hey, we're open for business, man. We're not going to turn you down. We're not going to ignore your calls. If you have a lucrative offer to move into the top 3, we'll consider it. I think Rafael Stone said the same thing. Now, we all believed that the Texans weren't going to get an offer good enough to trade out from number 3, and they didn't. So they stuck and pucked. They stood there and selected at 3.
They made their selection.
Yes, thank you. I think the offers could be greater for the Rockets at 3 because, once again, this feels like a 3-player draft. There are going to be more than 3 great players in this draft, but every draft analyst out there says that there's a clear-cut top 3 in this year's draft. So maybe the Rockets can get better offers than the Texans did, because usually teams in the NFL, when they're trading into the top 3, they're trading up for a quarterback. There wasn't a quarterback worth trading up for that high this year. In the NBA, feels like there are players or a player worth trading up into the top 3 for. So I think the Rockets are going to get offers. And look, you shouldn't ignore the calls. If you get a lucrative offer, something that can really set you up for success down the road, then yeah, you absolutely listen to it. But it's going to have to be a great deal, Jake. It can't be like, this feels like an even trade. No, it's got to be one of those that it's like, oh, man, we just robbed them. Like, they were really willing to give up that much for this pick? Oh, the Rockets got a steal here. Because, yeah, there is a big difference in drafting 3 in the NBA versus drafting 5, 6, 7, anywhere like that. Moving down a couple of spots makes a much bigger difference in the NBA than it does in the NFL. So the offer is going to have to be a tremendous one, a kachunga and a half offer, Jake, for me to even consider trading down from 3 if I'm Rafael Stone.
It's not the exact same scenario, but a couple of years back, the Philadelphia Sixers chose to move up to draft Markelle Fultz.
Yeah.
And the Celtics moved back and they settled for Jason Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you could get burnt if you move back in the draft instead of just sticking where you're at and just taking the best player.
No doubt about it, right? And then sometimes it pays to trade up. Like, look, the Mavs and the Hawks made a draft day trade a couple of years ago. The Mavs moved up from 5 to 3. They took Luka. The Hawks took Trae Young. He's been a good player for them, right? They led the Hawks to the conference finals. He's been an all-star, but like he's not Luka. Like, you've got a chance. Guys like Luka, guys like Jason Tatum, guys like Joel Embiid were all selected in the top 3. All those guys were actually taken number 3 overall. There's just a big difference. And I ran down the list earlier. I won't do it again, but I ran down the list of some of the guys who were drafted number 6 overall in the last decade. And you compare it to the guys who were selected number 3, massive, massive difference. So trading down, once again, it's going to take a ridiculous highway robbery type of offer for me to really even consider it. Trading up is the interesting thing, though.
And trading up apparently could be an option for the Houston Rockets. Last hour, we had Jackson Gatlin on the show. He knows the Rockets as well as anyone in this town. He hosts the daily Locked On Rockets podcast. And BKU asked him about the possibility of trading up. And Jackson Gatlin, he's on board with that possibly being something Rafael Stone could do.
When you look at what the other 2 teams at the top necessarily need, the Orlando Magic at number 1, the Oklahoma City Thunder at number 2, I think there's absolutely a realistic possibility of the Rockets trading up to number 1 with the Orlando Magic. I don't necessarily see that for them to trade up to number 2 with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
So how about that? They could trade up to number 1. Who's the guy they're going up for at number 1?
I think it'd be Jabari Smith. It could be Chet Holmgren. I don't know.
Chet, you betcha.
Like, Paolo Banchero is number 3 on most big boards, and my guess is he's number 3 on the Rockets' big board, too. I don't know that, but that would be my guess. So they would want one of those other two guys if they traded into the top two. Because Banchero, I think, is going to be there at 3. So if he's really their guy, they're going to stick and pick there, and they're going to call it a success, and they're going to lie. And maybe they'll tell the truth, but they're going to say that it was their guy all along. And, if we had the first pick, we would have taken Banchero. We loved him so much. You're going to get that regardless of if it's true or not. I don't think it probably is true. But, yeah, I'd be much more in favor of trading up than trading down in this draft. And, look, you've got some ammunition. Like, you don't have to mortgage the future of your franchise to trade up a couple of spots this year. You still have, you've got 17 from Brooklyn this year. You still have 2 more firsts coming your way from Brooklyn. You got picks coming from Milwaukee in the not-too-distant future. You've got pick swaps, obviously, with Brooklyn, I think 3 more times over the next few years as well. So you've got some draft capital to play with to where if you do want to move up a spot or a couple of spots to make sure you're going to get your guy, you could do that. So, yeah, I'd be much more in favor of trading up to still ensure that I get one of these top 3 guys versus trading down to end up with somebody who's not in the consensus top 3.
It would show me a lot about Stone if you traded up. Like, there's a guy you want, go get your guy. Define your tenure as the Rockets GM. Like, go and make your move. Like the Jalen Green pick, anyone could have made. You go up and get a guy that you want in the draft. You're going up from 3 to 1. That's like a move you make to, like, define your time as a GM.
All right, AC, I'm going to ask you this. Doing some quick search here. It looks like the Fultz for Tatum draft day trade just involved 1 extra first-round pick. So the Sixers traded number 3 overall and a future first to Boston to get number 1. So I'm asking you. You don't get the Nets pick. The Rockets' first-round pick next year and number 3 overall to move up to number 1. Are you doing it?
No. The Sixers were in a totally different position at that point. You had Embiid, who was already playing at a star level. Ben Simmons, you had him coming back healthy. You were expecting to compete at a playoff level the next season after making that trade. The Rockets, I don't think, are anywhere near that level yet. I think that they're still a couple seasons away from where they would be in the position to make that sort of trade. So no chance on my end.
Jake, where are you at on that? Trade a future first and your number 3 overall pick to move up to number 1 to draft anybody you wanted this year.
I'm not against it, and I'll tell you why. Because I want Rafael Stone to make his mark on the team. Like, if he thinks that the guy that they're coming up for is worth giving up that to do it, I'll support it. It better work, though.
Of course.
You're taking a big risk by doing that when, as we talked about, you could stay at 3, pick the one guy that's left after the first 2 guys go off the board, and no one's really going to criticize you right away for that.
Yeah, way more pressure to get it right, if you move up into the top 2, and you give up a lot to move up into the top 2. Like, you absolutely have to hit on this pick. It feels like you have to hit on it either way, right? If the guy you take at 3 is a bust, then, okay, it sets your franchise back. But if you're giving up future assets to move up a little bit higher, and that guy turns out to be a bust, then you're in trouble.
Which one Wednesday from a texter?
Uh-oh.
The Rockets trading up, or Cody Stoots calling in for a mental health day tomorrow from all the bullying we've done today?
Which one's more likely?
Yeah.
Cody taking a day off of work. I don't care what the reason is. That's more likely. Without question.
He was sick on Monday, and today was a scheduled off day.
He looked healthy to me yesterday.
Well, I mean, today was a scheduled off day, though. He's not sick today. He's off.
Okay.
Just telling you.
Scheduled off day. He's got a lot of those.
You've never missed a day.
No.
Never.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button down below, and of course, subscribe to my channel. And if you're a Houston sports fan, listen to ESPN Houston 97.5 FM or 92.5 FM weekdays from 3 to 7 every afternoon.